So just to recap, as of right now, we are able to run our program. If we click on the Add New Vehicle button, the user can then click the car. They can add in. Now, granted, if they don't put anything, we have a pop-up that doesn't allow them to work, where we can add Ford Mustang 2-door with a sunroof and 8 cylinders. We can add it. And when we add it, we have the modify remove button. Of course, they don't have functionality yet. Well, the modify button has functionality, but it doesn't actually work yet. So we have to implement that component. Cancel works. All right. So let's finish implementing modify. Now, if you notice, one issue that I just recognized is that when I click modify, the number of doors and the number of cylinders isn't correct. So let's see if we can fix that real quick. So I believe if I go to source, and I think it's actually in our car GUI class, set and modify values. So when I have set this.num doors combo box that set selected items, I say car.get num doors. That's an integer. And the actual items in here are strings, I believe. So let's see if we can convert this to a string. So simply do an empty string and a plus sign. Same thing here, empty string and a plus sign. Let's see if that works. I'm not quite sure. So let's see if that is a simple fix for that. So let's add Ford Mustang. Number of doors is 2, sunroof, 8 cylinders, add, click here, modify. And now it works. Great. So let's make this modify button work. So to do that, it's down here in the enter button action perform. Now just a reminder, this button right here is the enter button. So variable name is enter button. Because depending on what the user wants to do, whether they want to add or update, the value of that button changes. So if they're updating, it says modify or modify. It says modify. If they're adding, it says add. So when we go into our enter button action performed, we can check the value of the button. So if the button is equals add, we're adding to the vehicle. However, if it's modify, we just want to modify the vehicle. Now, the beauty, and I think this should work, since we are passing our car object here, I believe we'll be able to use that later on. All right, so let's see if we can do this. So I'm going to create a class variable, private automobile modify auto. And all this thing is going to do is hold a reference to whatever car we're currently modifying. So this dot modify auto initially equals null. Initially it shouldn't equal anything. All right, set modify value. So when we pass this car in, we'll say modify auto equals car. All right, so our class reference will equal the reference to that object. Let's see if this works. I'm not sure, so let's see. So down here, we're going to, instead of doing this, I'm going to say modify auto. And actually, you know what? I can do this. If modify auto instance of car, do this. And then of course later on we'll have one same thing for a truck. Alright, so we'll say car equals, we'll explicitly cast our modify auto into a car. We'll do all that stuff, then we'll say this dot modify auto equals null. Clear out that reference. We don't want it anymore. And then we have the same code from up there. This dot set visible and we're closing bracket. And honestly, so I have this stuff in the if statement, but we know later on we'll have another one for a truck. And regardless of what type of automobile modify auto is, we're still going to want to run that code down there. So I'm going to put it outside of our if statements. All right, so that's going to go outside because regardless of what instance of this modify auto is, it's still going to run this code down here. All right, so when we do our truck stuff, we'll have that same code run. So let's see if this works. So again, just to recap, in this else if statement, we're checking to see if that enter button, the text on it says modify, which means that we are modifying our automobile. If that's the case, modify auto should have a reference. All right. If modify auto doesn't have a reference, we have an error. So actually, we want to check that. If modify auto equals no, meaning that for some reason it was never set, I'm going to give an error message. So this was the code I used earlier for the error message. So I'm going to do this. Error with modifying is the title of this error message. The actual message is no automobile was selected. And then I'm tying all of these to that if statement. All right, I'm tying it to that if statement. So else if, then we check the modify auto, and then we run this code anyway. We don't actually need this button, this code, because we don't want to set those buttons enabled anymore. They already should be enabled. So I can just delete that. So let's see if I run this. Let's see if it works. I don't know. Add new automobile. Ford Mustang. Num doors is 2. Sunroof. 8 cylinders add. Click modify. Let's say it has a spoiler. Then modify. And you see, it updated after I clicked on the list. All right. So after I click on the list, it modifies it and everything is correct. All right. So if I uncheck this, I hit modify. What I'm talking about is the list doesn't update until you click on it. So that's just something that we could drill deeper into as to why it's doing that. We can call, I believe, a redraw method on that list. But right now, I'm not going to go through that just so we can get the functionality. As of right now, my code works. I can modify this automobile. 6 doors, modify. Again, the only thing is it doesn't update until you click on it. So that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Oh, it's working. All right. The last thing to do is just to remove an automobile. So we go back to our main GUI, design. Again, we want to do our action performed. Double click, action performed. So what we want to do is get the automobile. And actually, I don't even think we have to do that. I believe all we have to do is autos model dot remove inventory list dot get selected index. And there you go. I think that's all we need. And then when we remove, we can check if autos model dot is empty. So if it's empty, disable the modify and remove button because there's no other objects in there. So let's see if this works. Add car, Ford Mustang, 2 doors, sunroof, 8 cylinders, add. Click here, remove. It worked. Our remove vehicle button is still enabled though, so why is that? Oh, it should say false. Set enable to false. So let me add 2 vehicles, remove one, and see if it still works. So make Ford Mustang. Num doors is 2 with a sunroof, 8 cylinders. Add new vehicle. I'm going to say a Honda Civic. We got 4 doors with a sunroof, spoilers, 4 cylinders. Add. Let's remove our Mustang. And it works. Let's modify this Honda Civic. Let's say it's got 2 doors. Modify, click. It works. If I remove it, these buttons should be disabled. Great. So that's the big functionality as part of this GUI. Now, of course, we can add the same thing for truck. And truck will follow the same logic as adding a car. So here in our main GUI, we say modify action performed. Let's see. Where do we actually... I think it's in our car type GUI. We implement this truck button action performed. Instead of car GUI, we're going to say truck GUI. So a lot of the code that we have in our car GUI, we can actually copy over to our truck GUI, which is what I'm doing now. So source, car GUI. Inside our car GUI, we have the code set add prompts, set modify prompts, set modify values, and reset. So I'm going to take that same code and apply it over here, just so we have it in both places. Truck has a little bit different attributes, so we're going to change that. I'm going to change the title, the variable name of this text field. I'm going to say title label, just so when we reference it in our code, that error goes away. All right. Now again, our truck has a little bit different values than a car, so let me fix this real quick. So set modify values, it's going to be a truck and not a car. Truck. So truck dot get make. Truck dot get model. Truck dot get num doors. If I look at my design, the truck has a crab walk, 4x4, and a body on frame value. All right, so source this dot crab walk dot set selected truck dot is crab walk. This dot 4x4 checkbox dot set selected truck dot is 4x4. This dot what's the other one? Body on frame checkbox dot set selected truck dot is body on frame. All right, so we're setting our modify values. Again, just like in our car type GUI, not our car type, our car GUI. Just like in our car GUI, we have 2 references, our main GUI and our modify auto. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Main GUI modify auto. We taking the main GUI as an argument here. So same thing down here. I'm going to copy this same code over so that we can use it just like we used it in our car GUI. All right. So this dot, we're resetting it. Crab walk checkbox dot set selected to false. This dot 4x4 dot set selected to false. This dot body on frame dot set selected to false as well. All right. There we go. So we have our set add prompts method, which just changes the prompts inside of our GUI to say add new auto and the enter button to say add. Set modify prompt, same thing. Thing to remember here is in our set modify prompts over here, We don't call reset. Well, actually set modify prompts we do. But set modify values, we have to set the modify auto to our truck reference that's passed in so that when we modify it, we can modify that actual truck. So modify auto equals truck. All right. Again, we're using pass by reference. So the reference to all these different objects still works. And when we modify it, we are modifying the one object in memory. All right, our main GUI, we have an error for some reason. Oh, truck GUI. It takes 2 arguments now, just like our car GUI. This object, this main GUI, it takes that as an argument. So now let's implement the code for our enter button. By double clicking, we go to our action performed. And I'm going to really just copy the same code that's over here and paste it. Again, the key difference, and actually in our car GUI, we're never going to have a truck, so I actually can remove this, because that actually goes in the truck GUI. So I want to copy this code over all the way down to here and paste that into our action performed in our truck GUI. Alright, the difference is, again, these 3 values. So this, let's say Boolean crab walk equals this dot crab walk dot is selected. Boolean 4x4 equals this dot 4x4 dot is selected. We're just getting that those checkboxes are selected. Boolean body on frame equals this dot body on frame checkbox dot is selected. Dot is selected. There we go. Same error message for make and model. If it's an add, we want to create a truck, not a car, equals new truck. Set the values for this truck dot set make truck dot set model truck dot set num doors truck dot set crab walk truck dot set body on frame truck dot set 4x4, and then we add the truck to our autos model. All right. Down here, actually, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this code, since we don't need to check if this is a car or a truck because the GUI we're in is for those different types. So this is the truck GUI, so it's never going to be a car here. This doesn't need to be an else if. It can just be a standard else. Same thing in the car GUI. It doesn't need to be an else if. We don't need to check if it's an instance of a car. It always is going to be an instance of a car if we're in the car GUI. Let's see, is that correct? Yeah. If we're in the car GUI, it's always going to be an instance of a car. Same thing in the truck. So we actually can make this a truck, not just a standard automobile. And that way, all we need to do is do truck dot modify auto dot, let's see, what did I have before? Okay, that's what I thought. So modify auto dot set make to make modify auto dot set model modify auto dot set num doors modify auto dot set crab walk modify auto dot set 4x4 and then modify auto dot set body on frame. All right. So now we're modifying it for a truck. All right. And so let me go from the top again. So in our constructor, we taken the autos model default list and the main GUI. That way we can update our main GUI from inside this truck GUI. It's a reference. It's all passed by reference. So also we have now it's a truck, modify auto. That's a reference to whatever object they click in the main GUI, so that when we modify it in this GUI, we have a reference to it. And so when we modify it, it is persisted back to our main GUI. I have two methods right here, set add prompts and set modify prompts. For when the user either, because we want to reuse this GUI when they click to add an object or when they modify an object. So depending on how they get here, either through adding prompts or through the modify prompt, it'll change the values of our text fields and our enter button on this GUI. Then we also want to take the current values of the truck that they selected if they're trying to modify and put those into our text fields and our checkboxes. So we take those values and we put them inside of those text fields. I also provide a quick method that resets everything that I can call in various methods that reset all the text fields. When they click the enter button, I gather all the data from the text fields and checkboxes. Then I have a check to see if there's an error message. If there is no error message, meaning this string equals empty, then I check to see if the enter button, if the text on the enter button is add, that means they're trying to add a new truck. So I create a new truck. I set all of its attributes equal to what we gathered from the text fields and checkboxes. Then I add it to my autos model. I make this GUI invisible by setting its visibility to false, and I enable the modify and delete autos buttons on our main GUI. So that's what that main GUI reference allows us to do. Here we check to see if it equals modify on that enter button. However, we do want to check to see if that modify auto, the reference, equals null. For some reason, it could equal null. I don't know how. But somehow a user could get here trying to modify something and it equals null. If it does, I give them an error message. No automobile was selected with a title, error with modifying, and the type is an error message. However, if modify auto does equal something, is not null, then we go here. We set the make of that modify auto reference to the information, all the attributes to the information we gathered above. After we do that, it's persisted back to our main GUI, so there's nothing else we need to do. Then we just say this.modify auto, the variable in this class equals null. We dereference it from that original object. All right. Then we set the visibility of this GUI to false. All right. So let's see if our truck works. There is one thing I need to do. So when they hit modify here, we say if automobile instance of a car, it pulls up the car GUI. We just need to add in the functionality for the truck. Truck GUI dot set modify prompts. Truck GUI dot set modify values. Truck GUI dot set location relative to null to center it on the screen. Truck GUI dot set visible to true. Make it actually visible. So now let's see if this works. Let's see if our full GUI works now. If I run it, add new vehicle, I can click on truck and nothing works. So let's find out why nothing works. And the cancel button doesn't work either, so that's an easy one. Let's see, let's put the functionality in the cancel button. This is really simple. This dot set visible to false. That's really easy. Oh, when I'm looking in this car GUI code, I don't see the truck button action performed. So double click, let's put that in. So we have a truck GUI here. So truck GUI that we have from above dot set add prompts. Truck GUI dot set location relative to null. Truck GUI dot set default close operation to JFrame dot dispose on close. Truck GUI dot set visible to true. This dot set visible to false to make this GUI disappear. Alright, so now let's check our full code. Add new vehicle, we click on truck. Make, let's say, a Ford F-150. 4 doors. It can't crab walk, but it is 4x4 and body on frame. We add that. Let's add a car. Ford as well. Mustang. 2-door with a sunroof and 8 cylinders. I'm going to add another Mustang. Ford Mustang. Num doors. 2 again. Has a sunroof and it only has 4 cylinders. Then I'm going to add one more truck. Ford F-250. 4x4 and body on frame. Let's try to modify one of these trucks. Make sure that works. Let's say it's not 4x4. So that becomes false. So that works. Let's delete one of these Mustangs. Alright, cool. Let's delete that truck. Cool. Delete that one. Great. And delete that one. Perfect. Alright. So, our full GUI works. The only thing left is to do the open file and save file buttons. So, if I right click event, action, action performed, it takes me to the save file menu item action performed. This is just like we did before in previous labs. All I need to do is create a file. Well, we can give the user the option to choose a file. I think it's called a J option chooser equals J option chooser dot, I think it's new J option chooser. Import it. Now this is where Google comes in handy. Java J option chooser. It's a file chooser. All right, J file chooser. All right, so it's not J option chooser. It's a J file chooser. Chooser equals new J file chooser. Import that. So string file name equals chooser dot get. Let's see. It might not be a J file chooser. Java J file chooser. All right, here we go. All right. So I want to say chooser dot set dialog title to specify a file to save. Then int user selection equals chooser dot show save dialog. And this frame. If user selection equals J file chooser dot and I was right, J file chooser dot approve option, file save file equals file chooser, mine is just named chooser, dot get selected file. There we go. All right, so that's how we get our file from a JFile chooser. And so if I hit run, what a JFile chooser is going to do is pop up file, save to file, allow the user to find a file in here, and they can create one, I believe. Yes. So they put one in here, they select the entire file path, they put a name, and they hit save. All right. All right. So now once we have our file, we can say print writer. Let's do a try, because we want to use a print writer. And then, of course, catch IO exception, I believe, or file not found exception, I believe is what it is. File not found exception, EX, J option, pane dot show message dialog. This I'm going to say EX dot toString. The title is cannot save. And the icon is the J option pane dot error message. All right. And just like before, we can print out using a print writer. Print writer, writer equals new print writer, save file. Okay, we import the print writer. For int I equals 0, I is less than, what is our list? I believe it's autos model dot size I plus plus. Now we loop through this list and we just print out the toString for each of these objects, just like before. But we want to check if it's a car or a truck so we can print out what type it is. If autos model dot get index I dot or instance of car, I'm going to say writer dot print line. I want to say car space plus autos. So my toString is a little bit different. It's all on one line. I dot toString. So I'm going to put car on one line with the rest of that automobile. Else if autos model dot get I instance of truck, writer dot print line truck plus autos model dot get I dot toString. All right, and then we save to the file, just like before. Finally, we need to do writer dot flush, writer dot close, and there we go. And I believe we also want the file chooser to disappear. Let's see, file chooser dot, let's see, is it exit or, let's see, what method do I want to call? Let's see if there's any. It may close by itself. It may close by itself. So let's see if it closes by itself. All right. So I'm going to run this. So one of the things, actually, I want to put a check in here. If autos model dot size equals 0, or actually I could just say if autos model dot is empty, I want to say J option pane no automobiles, and I want to say there are no automobiles to save. Else do the rest of this stuff, right? If there are some automobiles, then save it. If not, don't save it. Now I put that if statement in there just so if the user tries to go file, save, there are no automobiles to save. All right, thanks. So let's add some. Car, Ford, Mustang, 2-door sunroof, 8-cylinder, add, file, save. This pops up. I'm going to put this on, let's see, where's my desktop? I'm going to put this on my desktop. Automobiles.txt. I'm going to hit save. And let's see on my desktop if it shows up. And it does. If you see here, automobiles.txt. And this is the value. This is the value. Car, Ford Mustang, 2-door, does not have a sunroof, does have a spoiler, and it's 8 cylinders. So now save works. All right. So how do we open? Kind of the same thing. So if I go back to design, I go here. If I right click, events, action, action performed. So we do the same thing. Let's do a file chooser. Same thing. JFile chooser. File to open instead of save. Instead of show save dialog, show open. Dot show open dialog. This. All right. We get the file, and then we have a print writer, or I'm sorry, a scanner. We got a try. Each try has a catch, and I'm going to just copy this catch. I don't feel like writing that again. Catch, scanner, reader equals new scanner, open file. I'm going to rename that up here to open file. Control Shift I, import that scanner. And now we have our scanner. So again, we read this in while reader dot has next line, string line equals reader dot next line. And I'm going to break this line up into its individual components. So we look at our automobile, we have a car, Ford, Mustang. They're all separated by spaces. So I can break this line up into an array with spaces, using spaces as the delimiting factor, the delimiter. So I can do string values. And actually, I don't know if I want to do this because for a car that's two names or could have multiple words in the make or the model, separating it by spaces may not work. So I'm trying to think of another way of doing that. Let's see. Let's see. So we have the line. Let's read in one word. String word equals reader.next. All right, let's read in that word. If word, and same thing, same issue. I'm just not going to worry about that right now, so we can move on. I'm just going to assume that all makes and models are one words each. String words equals line dot, I want to say it is, let's see, split. And what is the splitter? It's a space. This needs to be an array. So it's an array of words. Right? So I split it. If words at index 0 dot equals car, I think it's a capital C. Yep, capital C, car. That means we have a car. So then we can say car equals new car. Car dot set make to words at index 1. Car dot set model at words at index 2. Car dot set num doors. Integer, because we need to convert this, dot parse int words at index 3. Car dot set let's say set spoiler boolean dot parse boolean words at index 4. I believe actually sunroof is the next one, so that should be 5. Car dot set sunroof boolean dot parse boolean words at index 4. And then I believe the num cylinders are last, so car dot set num cylinders integer dot parse int words at index 6. Alright, that's a car. Else if words at index 0 dot equals truck. You gotta do the same thing for a truck. Truck equals new truck. And there was one last thing I needed to do up here. Autos model dot add, I think it's add element. Add element car. We want to add that car to our autos model. Do the same thing for truck. Truck dot set make words at index 1. Truck dot set model words at index 2. Truck dot set num doors integer dot parse int words at index 3. Truck dot set, I want to say crab walk is next. Boolean dot parse boolean words at index 4. Truck dot set, I want to say 4x4 is next. Boolean dot parse. It all depends on how we saved it. And I could just look at our truck 2-string to see. Yeah, it's crab walk 4x4 and then body on frame. So I got to follow that. Crab walk 4x4 index 5. Truck dot set body on frame. Boolean dot parse boolean words at index 6. Once we've read all that in, autos model dot add element truck. And there's our open file. Let's see if this works. I'm going to run this. File open. Pulls this up. Again, it's in my desktop. Automobiles.txt. And it works. Let's add a truck. Ford F-150. Again, there can't be any spaces here because of how we read it in. Obviously, in a real program, we'd want to update that. Let's save this to a file. I'm going to save it to the same file. I think I might have to close it. Save. Looks like it worked. It did. That's my automobiles.txt file. The issue is we need to clear this model. So if we open a new file, what's going to happen is it's going to open it up and add it to our list with these other ones on here. We don't want that, obviously. So before we open a new file, let's clear out that autos model. Autos model dot clear. Very simple code to clear that out. So when we run this, file, open, go to my desktop, it works. Add a new car. I'm going to say a Chevy Camaro. 2 doors with a spoiler and 8 cylinders. Add. I'm going to save this to that same file. Alright. Now if I open, if I remove this one, I remove that one. And I say open, it should just replace what's in our list. Oh, it already clears it out. So because that code works before our JFile chooser even pops up. So it clears it out. And then we should be able to modify this list as we see fit. Everything should work as expected. And that is how you would implement your GUI for the most part. There are some areas that you could make a little bit better, clean up the code a little bit. For the most part, that's implementing a GUI.